Hey guys, thank you for joining me for the open house. I'm just going to go live inside of my group here really quick. So just hold on for a second. Live in the Facebook group. Let me find it. Okay, I hope you guys are having a good Labor Day so far. Good Labor Day weekend. Here we go. All right. Hey guys, happy Sunday. We are now live in the Facebook group, so feel free if you want to jump into the Zoom room with me to ask a specific question. Otherwise, I will, if I see comments, I'll go back and answer them later. For now, this is sort of like a wrap up. I had a lot of questions from the Ugly Kitchen Challenge, and a lot of the questions were the same ones over and over and over again. So I thought I would just do this little recording. And so many of you really, really loved having an example for me to walk through of a cabinet job that I've done using our cabinets, but also my design, that I thought I would do another version, right? So you guys could see it with a little bit more detail. And again, this is what I do for a living. I help women around the country remodel their kitchens, and that happens in a variety of ways. The simplest version is they pay to have me do their design, their cabinet design and layout. And then a percentage of those women take those plans and do other things with them, right? Buy cabinets from somebody else, etc. But a percentage of those women actually have me bid on the cabinets, and then we make their cabinets and ship them to them. And then they get assembled, they're pre-finished, they get assembled and installed. So this is an example of that whole thing. And a percentage of those women actually fly me to do the whole thing, right? So, but I do every version of that along the way. So feel free if you've got questions to ask me. And I generally work with around 10 women at a time. And so I have like 3 openings right now. If you're interested in working with me, you can send me an email or text me. Obviously, my text is in the email as well, and say, hey, I'd love to talk about it. Okay. So that is what we are doing today. And I'm gonna, let's see, I'm just waiting because I know it's always hard for people to sometimes get into the Zoom room. So if you can't get into the Zoom room, but you're watching me live on Facebook, let me make sure that I'm in that group and that there's no problems. You can always text me and let me know that you're having an issue, and I can resubmit the link, or I can invite you personally into the room. Let me just see if I'm in here live. Yes, I am. Okay, cool. So I'm live in the group. All right, so I'm going to start with answering some of the questions that I get a lot frequently. And so I apologize if you already know the answers to these, but most people don't know these answers. Okay, here we go. So I'm hoping you guys can see my screen. How do you prepare the room for cabinets? Let me do this right here. Okay, so it's a little bit bigger. Okay, so how do I prepare the room for cabinets? So that could mean both, like, how do I help you prepare the room for cabinets, right? So as part of my program, I help you basically manage your own contractors. So how that kind of manifests is that once you sign up with me and we have the actual cabinet drawing, then the next step is we move on to figuring out who's gonna get the room ready for the cabinets, whether that's for my cabinets or for your own cabinets. And so like this is an example. This is not a great drawing, but this is, an example of a really quick sketch that I was working on with a client, trying to figure out the spacing and the numbers of the cabinets. So that's like step 1 for us. Then step 2 is to move forward with getting all the different contractors ready. So what that means is demoing the original cabinets that are there, prepping the room. So moving electrical and plumbing, and then repatching the sheetrock and texture and paint. Maybe putting in a new floor. So those are all the different vendors that I would help you find and hire and then make sure they're doing the job correctly. And so that's at a basic level. And then cabinets come in, we assemble them and we install them, and then countertops, and then any final stuff like final lighting, stuff like that happens. So I'd say the biggest things that we prepare are we put can lights in the ceiling, which you're going to see on this job. And that's because most kitchens are very severely underlit, especially older houses. It's like almost 100% of the time we put in new can lights, which are recessed lights, but I help you figure out the layout of that. Then we would almost always redo the electrical on some level, like putting in new outlets because the outlets are old, and believe it or not, outlets actually go bad. So, and by going bad, I mean they can light on fire and catch on fire. So we do that. And then as far as plumbing, these are like the three biggest things. And then plumbing, we almost always replace the plumbing behind the sink. So what that means is like where the supply lines, the water, the hot and cold are coming in, those valves again go bad over time. And so we're almost always replacing the valves. And like just cleaning stuff up under there, right? The piping's all over the place typically. And so I'm helping your plumber, helping you hire a plumber who knows how to do that. So that's how we prepare the room for cabinets. And it doesn't have to be painted, but it really helps to have the ceiling painted. It's a lot easier to do the walls after the cabinets cover everything, but it's a lot easier to do the ceiling paint before. So that's how we prepare the room for cabinets. I'm hoping that answers the question. If not, just let me know. If you have more, if you need more details. Okay, how do you figure out the design that will work the best and save money? How do you figure out the design that will work the best and save money? Again, this is part of my process from DFIO, designed from the inside out. So we're actually optimizing this space because we can build custom cabinets, right? So we don't have to just go off of standard sizes. So how do I figure out the design? I'm figuring out where I'm going to put all those drawers, right? The drawers that we talked about in the first two trainings, the optimal size drawers, those deep drawers. I know how much volume each set of drawers can hold. And so I'm trying to figure out how I can do those and a day use pantry. Those are the two big things that I'm trying to figure out generally. And then the rest of the stuff is easier to figure out, but those things dictate the layout and the shape of the actual kitchen, where those drawer bases go, because they're usually left and right of a stove. So between where the appliances are going, where the drawers are going, and where the day use pantry is going, for me, those are my top three biggest worries when I'm looking at a new kitchen, is like, because I know they have the biggest impact, biggest good impact, which you will see in today's job when I explain like what we did. It may look really basic, but it's like transformational. It is so much more storage for her. And then work the best and save money. Well, I already know that's where you want to put your money. So you don't need to do a lot of other extra necessarily fancy stuff, because that's going to solve the issue, right? That's going to solve the issue. So that's how I figure out the design mostly. And then of course there's the look of it, right? And so we use design boards and we get a lot of samples and we play with those colors. That's how we do it. All right. Let me see here. What's the next one? How are the cabinets made and with what materials? So the cabinets are made here in California, and they're made out of, we only use like the really highest standard because it's the actual structure that holds everything else that's in it. The really good slides, the really big drawer boxes, and all of your stuff in them. So for us, we only use 3/4 pre-finished maple, high grade premium maple plywood. And it's like twice as thick as what the industry is using. And they're waterproof on the inside because it's that pre-finished coating. They're really, really difficult to scratch or get like water damage. And then we only use obviously hardwood doors and drawer fronts. We use dovetail birch, dovetail drawer boxes that have inset bottoms, so the bottoms can't be pushed out or off. And that's what allows us to put so much in each drawer. And their conversion varnish is the finish, which again is waterproof. And more important than being, well, just as important as being waterproof, is that it allows you to be able to clean them. Like if you get anything that's like most of the things that can't come off of a lot of cabinets are like crayon, Sharpie pens, right? Sharpies. We can actually use acetone on our cabinets, meaning we can actually clean off something with acetone. A lot of cabinets you can't do that with. If you put acetone on it, you're going to melt the finish, right? Okay, I'm hoping that helps. How are they shipped? So they're shipped on pallets and very, very carefully carefully wrapped on the inside and then shipped on pallets. And that's how we're able to ship across the country, right, to pretty much every single state. And they show up ahead of time. So like before I would get there, they would show up the week before. And we, the company, it's freight. And so we're able to know ahead of time that they're coming. Like they don't just literally arrive because obviously they're large. So we need to make room for them. So they call ahead like 2 days before and say, hey, your stuff's coming in, and we schedule the delivery. So it's all very coordinated. It's all very easy to do. Like if you work and you want to be there when they're there, we know in advance. So we help coordinate with you to make sure that it's easy for you to get them. Okay, how are they assembled and installed? They come on layers. So each individual cabinet, like one base cabinet, is one layer. It's all between this cushioned packaging material. And so that's one layer. And then there's like packaging material and then another cabinet and then packaging material and another cabinet. So even though the box, like the pallet might look relatively small, like you'd be like, how is that a whole kitchen? It's because they're layered with packaging between them, but they're laid flat. That's how we're able to actually cost effectively ship an entire unassembled kitchen to you on a pallet, right? Because they're flat. Okay. And so when they show up, what I'm doing is unwrapping all that outside careful packaging. And then I pull off that first thin layer of cushion, and there's a cabinet right there. So I take all those pieces off and I set them against the wall, and that's one base cabinet. And I take the next little layer off. I take all those 4 to 5 pieces, I organize them, put them against the wall. So each cabinet has like a basic system that's the same over and over and again. And so we put them around the room, and then we just take one group and we assemble them with glue and really long, big screws. So there's no staples. They're incredibly strong when they're put together, and they're incredibly heavy and flat and like square. So when you install them, it's quite easy to install them because they're not wiggly, flimsy cabinets like you would get from Home Depot or Lowe's. I put in the base cabinets first, and that's so we can actually work. And we usually put plywood on top typically. And then we put the uppers up second, and then we add all the doors and drawer fronts. We'll put all the drawer boxes in, then add all the doors and drawer fronts. And then I do the crown molding at the very top last, because I'm sort of eyeballing it with what the doors look like. So that's how they're roughly installed. As part of our program, we actually teach you how to do that. We show you how to do that. So you're not like required to fly me out there to do the cabinets. Some of the people do them themselves. Like we just, by video, we show them how to put one cabinet together, and we help them with the basic layout, but they might already have some experience themselves, but they really want high quality cabinets that are custom made for their job, not just pulled off of a shelf in standard sizes. So that's why people would use us. And obviously the design that they get from us. Okay, how much work can you and your family do, and how to work with contractors? Okay, how much work can you do and your family do? Okay, you guys can do all of it. We have lots of families that do that, where they just get the cabinets from us. We show them how to assemble them. They assemble them, they install them. So you can do every piece of that. You can do a part of that. You can hire somebody locally to put them together for you and install them. So there's like multiple variations of how people do this. And how much and how to work with contractors. Yeah. So again, in my program, we do a lot of work with how to work with contractors, because this is such a big part of the whole game, is like being able to get the bids that are good, being able to get bids that are accurate, how to not overspend with contractors and actually know what you do, what's going to work. So when you sign up, I help protect you by looking at all the bids you're getting and helping you filter through them. And we pick the contractors that we know are going to be easy to work with. They're going to really care about the quality. And yeah, so it's not really that hard to do. And because I'm a contractor, I already know the steps that are coming up. So I'm able to help you know what that person's going to be doing. And I help you manage the schedule with that person, so it doesn't kind of get like out of control, right? Just out of control. And that was a big part of why like Kay signed up, was because her husband didn't really want to have anything to do with the kitchen. and anything to do with the contractors. So she was really kind of on her own. And so she had me so I could help guide her on what was the next step in advance. So she already knew what was coming up. She knew what she should be working on. She knew the people she's going to hire were like approved by me. She knew that I was going to help her make sure they did their job correctly. So she was not by herself, right? She was not alone, because it's like she had me as a contractor on her side. Okay. Even though she's not technically paying me the 15% that you'd be paying a general contractor, that's part of my service when you sign up, is I help you manage the job, so you're not taken advantage of. All right, and then another question, like, how long does it take? Well, it's relative. It depends on how fast you guys can do the stuff on your side. But as far as how long does it take? Well, we make cabinets roughly within 3 to 4 weeks. So once you sign up and let's say you use our cabinets and they're in production, then we move forward with getting the room prepped. And so by the time that room is prepped, the cabinets show up, get put together, and get installed. So that whole process, can easily be, 3 to 6 weeks, I would say. But sometimes you guys are doing the work yourself. Maybe you're working full time and then you're doing this on the weekends. And so we can coordinate and schedule the cabinets to show up for you when you're ready, basically. So it can be quite fast. And it really just depends on how fast you guys can move and how fast your contractors can move. All right, so I hope that answers some of the questions that I get. And let's move on to the example, right? Let's go see this example. All right, so this is Kay's kitchen, and let me take myself off camera. You guys don't need to see me while I'm doing this. Okay, there we go. So, okay. So this is 1970. They live on a horse ranch. Okay, it's a farm. This is basically a 1970s farmhouse, and this was a very dark, dim. I mean, it actually looks brighter in this picture than in reality. The picture brightened it up. It's actually darker. It was actually darker than this in person, and it had these very dark brown, horrible cabinets that slam, no good drawers. Very small crouched corner here. So like her sink is right next to the stove. So she couldn't really use this corner, and very small window with these dark cabinets right up next to it. Very low ceiling. Again, this whole soffit, right? You saw this in the last example, this soffit that reduces the height of the ceiling, and a fan that provided minimal light and no can light, no recessed lighting. And then over here on the left is her deep refrigerator and a laundry room, basically on the left, and then this peninsula. So because it's this very small, tight U, again, she couldn't really use the corners, even though these are technically corner cabinets. She just had stuff thrown in the back of these two corners here. And this peninsula blocked this walkway was like only 2.5 feet wide. So it was very, very narrow. And so by the time you basically got somebody at the sink or at the stove or at the refrigerator or pulling stuff out of the laundry or trying to prep, you couldn't have a family meal in here. She has a really big family. There was no storage at all for food, no pantry. And so the stuff was just all over the place, right? She absolutely hated this kitchen, not just the look of it, but it just was completely not functional. And so there was a lot of things that I needed to fix here. One was figure out how to get a pantry in here. What she originally wanted to figure out if she could maybe do an island. And after doing her sketch multiple times, I suggested that we take out the laundry room on the left and the washer and dryer, I should say, on the left, and basically use this entire U of a kitchen. So basically she was only using half of a kitchen, but even that half wasn't very usable. And so we made this we basically used the entire room. And so you'll see the steps of how we did that. But I knew that was going to solve a couple of problems. One, it was going to get rid of this peninsula that was blocking the walkways. It was going to be able to give us a pantry, a day use pantry. It was going to be able to move the stove here away from the sink, so over to the left. And then that would give her this massive amount of countertop space left to right. And Another requirement was she wanted this big, beautiful, very custom Samsung refrigerator. She has a lot of family and she's the cook, main cook for everybody. And so she hosts a lot of things. And she really, really wanted this very deep refrigerator, which was about 33 inches deep. So normally I would have talked somebody out of that deep of a refrigerator, but it was her one big requirement that she really, really wanted. So I knew that refrigerator had to be in a certain location where it wasn't going to impact anything else. So the combination of the refrigerator, the stove, the day use pantry, I knew there was really no way to put an island in here. So we talked about that and I showed her how much she would be giving up by putting in an island. And so she agreed. And now she's like, I love the fact that there's no island. It's so spacious. And now she can actually put a long dining table down the middle of the kitchen for holidays. And so she wouldn't have been able to do that if she had the island there. So yeah. All right, let's look at the next picture. All right, so this is another view. This is looking at the laundry room, and here there's a washer and dryer in there. And you can see the fridge. This is her old fridge, but you can see how there was this little dinky door here on the left. Okay, that was quote unquote her pantry, but it was horribly organized. It was just fixed shelves. Most of the stuff was sitting on the ground, like down on the floor. She didn't have a good refrigerator cabinet up here, right? So she couldn't even use this cabinet. This vent was here, so we had to move the vent. And like her garbage can is out here to the left. She had these tiny little countertops left and right of the stove. So, I mean, there were some massive things here that just were super not fun to cook in. And with this angle, you can see how narrow, look how narrow this walkway is between the fridge and the peninsula. It was just horrible. Like, it was just not a good place to be. All right. So, yeah, so this is the last picture just to sort of show the darkness of it, the narrowness of it. She did have a little tiny kitchen table here, a little round table. And then this is a walkway. So this goes out to her slider. Yeah. So this is what we were starting with. So this is the start of day one where they're removing. So I showed them how to remove the cabinets, and they did a lot of this work themselves to save money. So they did a lot of the demo and the prep themselves, and they only hired a plumber and electrician to do some very specific things. So they did all this work themselves. They both have full-time jobs. She's a nurse and he works in engineering. And so they literally did this just on the weekends, right? They did this for a day or so at a time. So you can see they pulled out the peninsula, and she already was like, oh my God, it's so much better just getting rid of the peninsula. And they were getting rid of the laundry room here, right? They got the washer and dryer out and the upper cabinets. And yeah, so this was like the very first weekend. And this is the prep after they've removed everything. They moved the stove. So here's the stove right here. The outlet used to be over here in this corner, right? Way over here in the corner. Now it's directly centered in the middle, which is where I designed it so that she'd have symmetrical cabinets left and right. Our brain as humans, we love symmetry. We're drawn to it. It's very comforting. So I knew one of the things I wanted to do in this kitchen was create a lot of symmetry, which she did not have before, right? If you noticed, every door was a different size. Every drawer was a different size. Like everything about it was chaotic looking, not even just functionality wise. So I knew I wanted to build in symmetry design wise. And so the way that I do that is by centering the stove. And I knew I wanted to have like a wraparound effect and have these corner cabinets up here, these angled diagonal corner cabinets. They work really great in a space like this. They're really functional. And they're not base corner cabinets. They're just the uppers. So I knew I wanted to do that, but that meant that the center had to be dead on. So I helped her with the measurements, and then her electrician put the outlet for the stove in the right spot, and then moved and added correct outlets in their correct locations. And then we put in a new outlet up here because she was going to put her microwave hood above the oven. And that was another thing where she really wanted the microwave to be not visible and not on the countertop. But in this case, it truly was, this was the best solution because we would have had to give up a lot of other things. And so she agreed that putting it over the oven was the best place to do, over the stove. What else? We made an outlet for the refrigerator. We moved it down. And as you can see, on the bottom, see this like flooring right here where there's that kind of rectangular spot? That's where the laundry room used to be. So you can see just by this photo, see the peninsula right here in the white, and then over here, that's how much square footage she was giving up with those two things. Not even just the footprint, but just the blocking of walking around. So she gained a lot of space by doing that. And also just visually, when you walk in the room now, you can look down the kitchen, right? Because we moved it all the way over to the left and out of this little tiny dark kitchen, which then made her window all of a sudden, even though it's still a small window, and because of budgets, right, she did not replace the window, and it still looks really good because it's been brightened up and we didn't do the cabinets too close to the window. All right, we also, if you notice, the soffit was removed, right? That the drop down soffit was removed. We moved the vent out of here, which was above the refrigerator. We put it in this box and they brought it over into the middle of the room. So the air, it gets quite hot in Kansas where she's at. The air that comes in for the air conditioning now comes actually into the room in a more efficient way. And it allows us to do an adequate refrigerator cabinet up here. We also added can lights, right? So these recessed can lights are up here. And she did put in a fan, but she actually added a second fan down above like where the little dining table is. And we made these lower profile and a little bit wider, so they proportionally like fit the room for air circulation. All right, while that room was being prepped, there's lots of things that still go on in the background, right? So part of my service is helping them pick their colors and their materials. So while the room was getting prepped, we also were working on design, okay? And so when you sign up with me, you get a door sample in your color, right? So we made her really quickly while the rest of the cabinets were being made. We made her a really small 12 by 15 door in her color and her style. So she could use that instead of just guessing from like a paint chip or off of a website. She actually has a real door that she could actually put next to things. And in her case, she already had the flooring picked out. It's kind of hard to tell because the original linoleum was really gross, right? It's this orange over here on the side. But she already had this leathered material. It looks like leather, actually. It's really, really cool in person. And she knew she wanted to have this as her floor. So we were working off of this leathered flooring material right here and the cabinet. Okay, so in between that, she had remembered a color called sea salt. That's this really soft, creamy gray blue. It's beautiful in person. She really loved that color. And she'd seen me do it in another kitchen. And so she wanted to paint her walls. Originally, she wanted to have her cabinets that, and I kind of talked her out of it. I didn't think it would go with the rest of the age of the house. It would be a little bit too stark of a difference from the living room to the kitchen, which you could see. So I told her that I thought it would be better if she did it in the paint, because you'll still be able to see it when you walk in, but the neutrality of these creamy alabaster cabinets will make it timeless for her for many, many years to come. So she agreed. So she painted her wall this beautiful sea salt. And then we were going between different colors of granite. And yeah, so she ended up picking this one on the far left here. And yeah, but this was the process of us looking at a bunch of different colors, right? So here she is again, thinking if she wants to do a black countertop or like a light gray. And she did end up going with this one on the left right here called White Springs. It's this one right here. It's really going to be great. So this is all part of that process while she's working on the rest of the kitchen, right? All right, let's see what the next thing says. So this is the day that some of the cabinets start showing up, right? This is her FedEx driver, Freight. He was great. And so they show up on these pallets. This is a pallet down here, and it's like 5 feet by 5 feet wide, and it's very carefully wrapped on the outside, both top and bottom. And then inside of that is the very, very carefully wrapped stuff. So stuff shows up not damaged and directly on your driveway, right? So he put it inside of their garage. So this is just an example of I think they got 4 to 5 pallets. And these are kind of the smaller ones. Their drawer boxes were twice as tall as this. because she had like 19 drawer boxes in that little kitchen, a lot of drawer boxes. And so this is one example of like the base cabinets and the uppers. This is like the pantry cabinet right here. You can't really tell from the picture, but it's actually quite long, right? Because it's 8 feet tall. And so that's what the pantry looks like before it is unassembled. And so this process would be, we cut the shrink wrap, undo these straps, pull the plywood off the top. And then inside of that are those layers that I was talking about, those cushioned layers where you pull off the cushion and there's a layer of one base cabinet, and you pull that off and organize it, set it against the wall, pull off the next cushioned layer, there's another one. So it's quite easy to not get them disorganized because they're organized already in the crate. All right, let's get to the next one. So here we are, day one. This is her and her sister. This is Kay on the left and Laura on the right. And I taught them how to use their cordless drills. So that's why they're super excited about that. That's like a side benefit of working with me, is you get to use a lot of power tools in a really safe way. And most women don't get they never get even the option to have somebody to take the time to actually teach them in a way that's not scary and takes, walks them through how to do that. So Kay got to learn how to use 5 power tools that I bring with me. So I ship my tools with me. So a cordless drill, a jigsaw, and nail gun, air compressor. I have a guided skill saw, and what else am I missing here? I'm missing something, and then of course all my hand tools. So this is the room looked completely packed. You couldn't tell from the other, but it's just packed with cabinets. These are the base cabinets. So I always do it the same way. I unwrap the base cabinets first. They take up the largest bulk of room. And so they're also kind of the easiest to learn on. So we are assembling, cabinet by cabinet, and I'm teaching them how to do it as we go. And so these are, you can tell how thick the plywood is, right? It's 3/4 of an inch. You can see it's really thick. These are the faces, right, that are painted in your color. And like this is a garbage can cabinet. That's a sink cabinet. These are base cabinets that go left and right of the stove. So we do all of this, and then I do the layout and I start installing them. So they're basically getting them, we put them together and then we get them out of our way. And we do that this took probably a day and a half to do all of these cabinets and install them. All right. And as you can tell, they were having a great time. And that was her big, huge fridge in the background. All right, let's get to this next video. This is Maddox, her adorable kitty. I'm a total cat person. You guys probably know that about me by now. I love cats. I have 6 of my own cats, and yeah, he's adorable. So he was in my way the entire time and I loved it. So here's a video showing some of the base cabinets already installed. And I guess that was it. I thought it was longer than that. Okay. But you could see him up on the thing. And then this is, we've got base cabinets installed, the box for the pantry installed, the uppers installed, and I am now going in and installing all of the doors and drawer fronts. And so you can see sort of in process, right? And the refrigerator cabinet is not installed yet. All right, and then this is the before and after of the refrigerator cabinet. So I'm going to do this one on the left here.
All right, guys, we're getting ready to put up the refrigerator panel. And so we've unwrapped the side panel. And we're getting ready to assemble this refrigerator unit here, which will have a box up there plus crown molding. And because they had to do a vent here, we had to come up with a way to make the cabinet go around that vent. So you'll see this in a couple of hours. And we just got the rest of our doors up and some handles up. And we're getting ready to do the crown molding across the top.
All right, and then here is the finished product. And so again, you see how deep this is. It's like 33, almost 34 inches deep, which is very, very deep for a refrigerator. But and so normally this would have been really a constricted area right in the middle here, but there's so much room in this kitchen now, like you just cannot believe the difference in just being able to walk around comfortably is so nice in this kitchen.
All right, guys, we are done with the refrigerator enclosure. You can see what that looks like. Here's Kay, who helped out. And so now those 2 panels look like they're integrated with that middle cabinet and the 2 doors and the crown molding. So this is a really deep refrigerator. is 33 inches deep, which is really, really deep, but you can see how it doesn't look out of place, right? Because now it's in an enclosure, and then she'll have obviously her beautiful countertops here all the way around. She's got a gorgeous color, which is right here. It's a leathered, it's gorgeous, and it's gonna look really beautiful with the cabinets.
Alrighty, so the fridge cabinet is almost always the last cabinet I do, the fridge and the crown molding. It's its own little project, but that was basically 3 pieces. That was an upper box and 2 big side panels. That's what I was showing in this video. And yeah, and so that's how they show up, and they get put together and assembled. All right, here is Kay talking through. She's basically standing in this whole corner is like a whole nother 30% of the kitchen that she didn't have available to her. That is the laundry room that we removed, right? And you can see how much more symmetry, everything is perfectly symmetrical now. When you walk into the kitchen, you see the stove and the microwave right in front of you, and the cabinets going left and right. So it's very, very symmetrical and very, very pleasing. And it's like a modern farmhouse, and obviously tons and tons of storage. So I'm going to let Kay talk about it.
All right, guys, so we're going to talk about like the couple of big things that we did structurally in here. So Kay, why don't you walk through like what used to be in that corner?
When we purchased this house, it was almost a hoarder house. So it was really, really bad. We had to do a lot of things. The kitchen, unfortunately, it was one of the very last things we did. But there was I think they had the washer and dryer here. So there was a closet here that had the washer and dryer hooked up, but I switched it into a pantry.
Right.
And it was just.
So the edge of the kitchen
here,
was kind of like here, really. So that's all you had.
Washer and dryer side by side. That's how wide it was. And it just was such a horrible use of space. And then over here, it had a peninsula come off to about here. So you couldn't hardly get, I mean, you just felt trapped when you were in here. You couldn't get anywhere.
And now there's a day use pantry.
Right now it was construction clutter. But.
All right, so that's her day use pantry, and then here she is finishing.
Okay. Never heard of it until I was talking to Camille, and right now it's construction clutter, but this thing is huge. So I'm excited to start going through stuff and getting everything organized. And I mean, even the drawers are huge.
And then taking all the food that you used to have to store in your cabinets is now going to actually be just in this one cabinet.
That's
and then you'll be able to actually put your pots and pans away. And she actually, there's her soft closing garbage can, her cookie sheet doors. She's got several of them. She's going to be able to organize, right, her cookie sheets down here.
And something that people always wonder about is why aren't we using this space? And I even wondered that too. But literally when we started pulling out cabinets, and we've lived here almost 10 years, and I really feel like I cleaned everything out. I found stuff that people left here back in that corner. That's why you don't use that corner, because you can't get in there.
Yep. Yeah. And then it makes you so you can't use these.
Yeah. So what I was starting to explain here was, if you use a corner cabinet, you give up these cabinets left and right, just the geometry in order to make an opening to get into that cabinet, which is low and dark. In order to do that, you have to give up the stuff left and right, which then means these cabinets don't function. So my whole goal with kitchen design is to use the 90% that we have available, which most people don't do that. And I don't care about giving up this 5% in the corners, right? They just hold up the countertop, because I'm maximizing all the way up to the corners. And for instance, we have, she has her waffle maker in this cabinet right here. She has all her cookie sheets, what used to be underneath something in the oven. So she'd have to unwrap, take everything out every single time. It's just super irritating, right? Her cutting boards now have a place, so her cutting boards aren't inside of a top drawer. Like when you don't do your corners this way, the corners affect other cabinets, and then those cabinets get disorganized and affects other cabinets, and then those cabinets get disorganized and affect other cabinets. So it's this sort of like rolling inefficiency that happens, and a lot of it stems from this one simple thing where people just think they want to use their corners, but they don't notice that they're not using the whole rest of their kitchen well. So I think Kay finally gets it. She was like, oh, I totally understand now why I don't care about the corners, because we improved everything else. Okay. All right, here's two things that she really wanted. She just loved the spices. She had all of her spices in like 3 boxes. And this is just our top drawer, which is that 8.5 inch deep drawer. The drawer box itself is 5 inches deep. So I make them deep like that because I already know, as a person who cooks every day, I know how my drawers act. I know the things that get caught in them. And so I designed a drawer that actually works so that it works with me, right? So this is me putting her spices away in like 5 minutes. And she was just like, hold on, wait a minute. All that stuff fits in that one drawer. And my cabinets come shipped with this little spice insert. See how they're laying on their backs, but they're actually at a slight angle. So there's 3 layers, and then you still get the back that you can put even more stuff in. So let me.
All right, guys, we are here at Kayleen's putting in her drawers. And I thought this was a good time to stop and talk about spices and my interior drawer box height, where people question if it really makes a difference. So this 8.5 inch drawer front is made specifically with a 5 inch drawer box so that I can, one, maximize my spices in a really short, there's only a 20 inch interior drawer box. And so if you notice in the back, I've made my drawer boxes so that you can actually get your taller spices that would normally never fit inside of it. And if you're not sure of the height, here's the difference. So these are our normal spices. These are the extra big ones. And so instead of putting these up in an upper cabinet, I'm able to actually put all the bigger ones in the back. All right. Hopefully that's a good example of why you need this size drawer box.
All right. So that was just one drawer. And she has 19 drawers now that she can organize, specifically because I took the time to actually measure what will actually make the biggest difference in what I put away in my own kitchen. So I know what you're putting in your kitchen because I'm doing the same thing, right? So her spices will go here and her big utensils will go on the right side. This middle drawer right here is where she's going to put all her big pots, all her pans that she uses every day. And the stuff in the bigger drawer at the very bottom are stuff she uses, but infrequently, right? And so you'll see her talk about her crock pots. In this drawer right here, she has 2 crock pots and a mixer. And you'd be like, there's no way that stuff fits in that drawer. And it does, because I mean, it does. So, all right, here is the final version. The final product with all the crown molding installed. They're waiting on their countertops. That's where the dishwasher is going to go. That's her sink cabinet. And she just has to put up her microwave. So her and her husband are going to put up their microwave. And so she basically will have all of this countertop on the left. She's going to put a little TV up here. She likes to cook along with recipes, and a shelf. And this is where you'll hear her story in a little bit about her mother. And so her mom's picture is going to be right here on the little shelf. And then she's got all of this countertop space, right? Look at all the countertop space she gained. I'm going to do it again, just so you can see how little space she had before and why removing that peninsula was so helpful. And the laundry room. So now she has all of this prep space, all of these big, beautiful drawers, tons of storage, great fridge cabinet that comes all the way out, and a day use pantry. All right, and here she is telling her story.
Hey, my name is Kay. I'm in Leavenworth, Kansas, and my new best friend is Camille with Kitchen Remodel Rockstars, and I absolutely love her. I'm so excited about my kitchen. I've never had anything so pretty, and my husband is going, why do you want to go with her? She's clear out in California. And I said, well, first of all, she's got 14-inch standard uppers, and the industry standard is 12. And I always was so frustrated. I'm like, why can't they be deeper? And she fixed that. And then she starts teaching when you start going through her program, and she teaches you why you want this, how she does this, why she does this. And then she really, when she gets here, she really tells you why I'm telling you to do this, do it the way I do this, which is all in fun, but I learned so much. One of the other things I love is I never know what to do with my spices. And this is all of my spices. Who would have thought all of this would fit in a drawer? I didn't. I mean, because these are the bigger bottles. You know, normally you would be doing that and be going, yeah. No, it doesn't do that. And then my sister was over earlier and I said, Tammy, do you see all of this fitting in that drawer? And she's like, wow, no. I mean, and the door closes. Look at it, closes really cool too. So, yeah, and I've never had crown molding. I've never had my refrigerator enclosed. So I'm feeling pretty special right now.
That's awesome. And what was maybe the most surprising thing about the experience, or the thing that was kind of just the cherry on top, or what you didn't really expect was going to happen, or just
Well,
what showed up, right?
ready to assemble cabinets intimidated me, but Camille took the fear out of that. I mean, she's just a wealth of knowledge. And when she's been doing this for 30 years, she's been doing this to make it perfect for 30 years. And if you go with kitchens with her, they're going to be perfect. And that's what's so exciting about it too.
Nice.
And the one thing I know I haven't done, I didn't use her enough during the process. I didn't want to bug her. I should have bugged her more. Pretty sure on that one. Huge. I know how much I don't know because we did most of the work ourselves, except for like we didn't do the electrical. We had some help with plumbing, but the stuff I didn't know that I didn't know that now I still didn't know I didn't know it is like, yeah, you really need to use her when you've got questions.
That's awesome. This has been a fun project.
It has been. Thank you.
All right, guys, so that is, that's the presentation for today. And let me get out of here. Yeah, so let me come back on camera here real quick just to say goodbye and happy weekend. I hope you guys learned a lot. I hope that was fun to look at another live example and hear from Kay, like hear her experience. And yeah, so if you guys have more questions, or if you want to sign up, again, I have 3 spots left for any of you lovely ladies that would like help with your design, your cabinet layout, your contractors, getting bids, figuring out your budget, and or in combination of, if you want to, there's no pressure, getting cabinets from me or seeing what my price would be on your job, and or maybe flying me out to your space to assemble and install. So all of that's available to you. You just got to reach out and ask and just let me know. All right. Yeah, this has been really fun, guys. This has been a great challenge and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. So have a great Sunday and see you later.